And those days especially are very good for like starting to build a network, because I feel like nobody knows anybody.
But as long as you're willing to make that conversation and put yourself out there, right? Like that's what adult friendships I feel are all about.
It's important to not ignore red flags as well.
And then that's the end of that friendship. You become acquaintances and then you start looking for a new batch of friends, right? You know what they say, desperate times call for
Figuring out how to make friends well into your 20s.
new city, new country, no clue where to start.
From awkward coffee meetups to clinging to one mutual connection for your dear life.
It's hard, it's weird, and no one really prepares you for how lonely it can feel.
But if you've been there or you're there, this one's for you.
This is Desperate Times. Welcome back to another episode of Desperate Times. I am Sakshi.
And I'm Varun.
So today we're talking about making friends in your 20s as an adult, or even just moving to a new country, and how that feels like. I mean, for me, it's almost felt like restarting and starting from scratch, building new bonds, and it doesn't come as easy as when it did when you were a child or in school. And that's just my take on it. But Varun, how has it been for you? Like, let's just explain in brief before we dive in.
Oh no, definitely. I feel like I had quite the same experience as you, where it felt like a lot bigger of a restart for me in some ways, if I can say, than for you. Again, not competing in any way. But because you moved to a city like Toronto and I moved to Montreal, I feel like had I moved to Toronto, I would have still felt a little more secure because I have that base of a bunch of you guys who I know who are in the city out there. But moving to Montreal was a lot more overwhelming in terms of just socializing and putting ourselves out there, because I knew absolutely nobody. For me, I probably knew only at the time, the two roommates who I decided to live with, who also, for context, I did not know prior to moving here. It was like one of those Facebook marketplace, not Facebook marketplace, but like Facebook communities of the university that you kind of connect with your peers on. And then from there on, I had to kind of restart this entire process. For me, was it similar for you? Did you already know a few people?
So it was definitely easier because there were some people that were already here in Toronto, like some of our friends, but also they were in different phases of their life. And that's the other thing about adult friendships, time and having your schedules match up. And so while they were doing other things in life, I was just coming here, starting out life, figuring out university, figuring out accommodations. So there's also that relatability in the same wavelength type thinking. Like if
For
you're
sure.
not in that phase of life, you're not as available or you don't understand those conversations as much. Like they'll always be your friends, but
Yeah,
I mean, friendships evolve, right?
absolutely. I'm curious, how did you land up making your first friend when you moved here? The first new friend,
uh
for context. Do you remember any of it?
I am thinking, I don't really know, it's been almost 3 years now.
Mm-hmm.
But I want to say it was through one of the WhatsApp groups that we had for our college. And then we had campus days. So, like, some of us were coordinating a meetup in
Uh,
person during campus days. So, I made some friends that day. And I'm still in touch with a few of them because a lot of us ended up being in the same class and stuff. But
mhm.
it was essentially through WhatsApp. Like, for you, it was through Facebook, right?
I think in general, we've discussed this in a previous episode, that you were lucky enough that you got a few of those campus days, and those days especially are very good for like starting to build a network, because I feel like nobody knows anybody. Everyone is kind of starting from the same levels. You already kind
Mm-hmm.
of have that commonality established with them. For me, it was slightly different because when I went in there, as we've discussed, I had to like jump straight into university and go directly into my first day of
Yeah.
class, not having that little bit of context or a little bit of socializing that I could have had with other people around me in the same situation.
Mm.
But nevertheless,
So,
I don't think it was any different. Sorry, you were saying?
so I was basically asking, so did you actually like chat up people the first day of class? Or because I remember
Exactly.
you mentioned you were figuring things out, like in terms of like your senior bank account during the first week. So,
Yeah.
I mean, it's a lot of things at the same time.
Exactly that, actually. So while I got to my first day of class, which was my second day in the country, I feel like one of the closest friends I've made is from that class itself.
Oh.
So I didn't really interact with this friend. I think maybe not into week one, but we were in the same class. And soon enough,
Mm-hmm.
we were put into like this group assignment, group project where a bunch of people were just thrown in together. And because I was
uh,
late to starting class, I was just assigned a group at random.
mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
just from that randomness is where this like really close friendship just eventually emerged. So sometimes at university, I feel like it's much like how it used to be in childhood, where you just are
Mm-hmm.
put into situations and then you randomly
Yeah,
become friends. But that's not always the case in adult friendships, and
definitely.
sometimes it requires a lot more.
Definitely, and that's the real test, right? When you're in school, when you're in college, it's fine because we
Mm-hmm.
came here as international students. So we sort of had same classes, people to work with in groups. So you eventually
Mm-hmm.
talk to them every day, you see them every day, and you start calling them friends. And then what happens when your school or university, college gets over? Like
Mm-hmm.
you have to constantly put that effort to keep that friendship alive
Mm-hmm.
and or have it fizzle out, and then that's the end of that friendship. You become acquaintances and
Mm-hmm.
then you start looking for a new batch of friends, right?
Mm-hmm. For sure. But I feel like as long as when you're trying to make new friendships as an adult, as long as there's a bunch of intentionality that is attached with it, and just a bunch of consistency that you put into it, where you're just making sure that you're staying in touch with someone on a regular basis.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, you have to understand each other's boundaries a little bit more, because then those come into play as well, and you can't be overly sort of imposing
Mm-hmm.
yourself on someone. But the more you speak to someone, the more you understand how comfortable they are to open up to you, the more you kind of show your intention towards them. And that eventually leads to a very good space of comfort in terms of building a friendship. At least that's what I've seen from my adult friendships so far. What about you?
Yeah, definitely. I'm gonna pivot a little bit here and
Mm-hmm.
not about my adult friendships, but generally just making friends in your 20s or as an adult. It's more about you also have to see their work schedules and what suits them. Like some people
Mm-hmm.
have they don't have a conventional 9 to 5, so
Yeah.
then you have to be flexible around it, and it's really about, do you really want to be friends with them? Then you
Mm-hmm.
have to like take the effort, be intentional like you mentioned,
Mm-hmm.
and uh it's a cycle. You have to keep doing the same thing again and again, and just making sure that you're there for them when they need you, and then like eventually if you need them someday, like they're there too. But
Mm-hmm.
in the end, what matters is just having that mutual understanding, right?
For sure.
Because like, sometimes you're just not on the same page, and that's okay too. Like
Exactly.
people
Exactly.
change,
For sure.
so it's tough sometimes to really accept that fact, but yeah, accepting and moving on is more peaceful than not.
Absolutely. I feel like even that's something that I was going to mention, that sure, there are going to be friends who you sometimes will put in a lot of effort to get to know, but eventually it can still lead to a point where things just aren't aligned in that friendship, and you can just peacefully go your own ways after that. And that's all, like, as when growing up as a kid, just as we mentioned earlier, you have these friendships that go decades long because it's easy, it's convenient, you're in the same school, same high school, whatever that is. But here, because you're only technically being in this person's vicinity at university for maybe 2 years, it's at that point in time you have to accept that some people are just not gonna be able to follow through, even though you are super intentional.
Yeah, and honestly, like a lot of my friendships from college haven't followed through. And now that I look at them, they were only for like maybe assignments and like a little chat here and there. Now I
Mm-hmm.
can call them more acquaintances and not
Yeah.
friends. And that's fine too, because everyone's got to do what they got to do in life. Everyone gets busy, and
Mm-hmm.
honestly, it's okay. It's completely fine. But then the next chapter is to find other people
Mm-hmm.
that you vibe with and you're comfortable with, and
Mm-hmm.
that happens in like other ways. Either you switch jobs or you, I mean, the apps like Bumble BFF were created for a
Yep.
reason, right?
Have you landed up making any friends through Bubble BFF? I feel like I registered myself once, but then I never really got around it. Have you tried it?
I actually never even tried it, but like
Ah.
oh, conventional methods, like old school methods, in our condo at least we have this rooftop garden and there's a garden community, so just people chatting up through that with like shared love of food and just like
Mm-hmm.
growing produce. And then there are smaller communities like this, like at your local community center, perhaps if you're going for some classes, if you're going to the gym, you go to pilates, like
Mm-hmm.
just so many other things, right? You
For
like
sure.
adventure sports and then you join run clubs. Like, the list is endless.
Yeah, and it's just a matter of just turning to the person right next to you and being like, hey, I am so
Hey,
and so, what's your name?
yeah,
And that's all it
definitely.
needs to kind of start it off. And you'll immediately kind of feel if you're vibing. It doesn't take too long to feel if there's a vibe out there for a friendship or not. And from
Mm-hmm.
there on, you can just take things pretty smooth.
Definitely. And not just these run clubs or anything, like professionally, when people start networking,
Mm-hmm.
it's not, I mean, it might be that you don't get the professional opportunity that you're looking for, but you might
Mm-hmm.
have made a friend. Like, I
Yeah.
have some people like that I'm connected with. And although, like, we don't benefit each other in any way professionally, but
Mm-hmm.
then we can always stay connected and be acquaintances, be friends. So, I mean, it's always nice to meet people that way as well. But as long as you're willing to make that conversation and put yourself out there, right? Like, that's what adult friendships, I feel, are all about.
For sure.
Putting yourself out there,
Mm-hmm.
testing the waters. I mean, much like dating,
Yeah,
but
sort of, sort of.
platonically.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I feel like there's a lot less pressure involved when it comes to
Yeah.
friendships, but there
I
is a
hope.
lot. There's a lot. I feel like there's this might be an I don't know if it's a controversial thing, if it's a just what it is, but I feel like losing a friend is a lot harder than losing a partner. A close friend is a lot harder than losing a partner. Do you think so?
Debatable, I want to say.
Okay, fair. I guess it
Yeah.
depends on how long you've been with your partner for at that point in time.
Yeah.
But to me, I
It
feel like
honestly, yeah.
it's deeper pain to imagine losing a very close friend than losing someone one day.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's debatable, like I said,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
this episode is not about that, so we won't get into that
yeah,
debate. But
yeah,
if
yeah.
y'all do want an episode on this, let us know in the comments, and we'll think about it.
For sure. I think one thing that I do also want to talk about and sort of link to another episode that we have mentioned about how you really get through the harsh winters in Canada. To me, in some ways, it's related to the topic of even making friends. And
Yeah.
on that note, I feel like what I always tell people around me is that all it takes for you to kind of get through the rough times is as little as two or three good friends. You don't need to
Mm-hmm.
always have a large circle. There's always going to be
For
people who
sure.
are introverted, extroverted, different personalities. Sometimes you are not
Mm-hmm.
comfortable enough to put yourself out there because it's easier said than done. But if you can even manage to like make yourself a small circle of two or three people, it's plenty.
Yeah.
It's honestly
Yeah,
plenty.
for sure. Like, I have like quite a few different groups here in Toronto, and I don't think those groups have ever met, but like they're like different things with different groups. Like this one group just likes doing this or that, like a couple of
Mm-hmm.
different activities. The other group is just like for other stuff, and it honestly is good to have different pockets of friends. Like, all your friends don't need to know each other. If they do and get along well, you're lucky,
Mm-hmm.
but they don't need to.
True, true, true. I think one great aspect of adult friendships that I have seen in my immediate circle, and this is not necessarily something that you see in every circle, but in the circle that I have now built for myself, it's just it's there's a lot less pressure to even maintain that friendship, which makes it a lot easier because, for example, growing up, every time there was a group plan that had to be made with
Hmm.
friends, it would always
Yeah,
be a day that everyone is available, a time that
everyone.
everyone is
Yeah.
available, a place that everyone wants to go to. But now it's not like that, and that's more for the better. It's more like we make a plan, someone wants to go somewhere, they post it on the group being like, hey, I am going here. Does anyone want to join? Whoever is free
Hmm.
joins, whoever is not doesn't, and there's no ill will, no bad blood, no nothing
Yeah.
whatsoever.
Honestly, I mean, we don't have like a group because like I have different sets of friends and everything. So
Mm-hmm.
I'll just message them, or they'll message me and they'll be like, "Do you want to go for this?" And they're like, "Okay, yeah, let's go." And then we'll
Yeah,
be like, "Do you want to
exactly.
ask that person?" And then if that person says yes or no, like it doesn't matter. Like
Mm-hmm.
literally last week, this friend of mine are like, "Oh, let's go drinking. It's been so long. I want to go have a drink." And I'm like, "Okay." She's like, "I'm gonna ask this person as well." I'm like, "Okay, yeah, sounds good." And
Yeah,
then the other person bailed. She's like, "I can't." I'm like, "Do you still want to go? Like, I don't mind. It's fine."
yeah.
And then we eventually ended up convincing the third person to come along with us anyway. So I mean, stuff like that happens. And honestly, friendships where people forget to text each other for a couple of weeks, but then when you do talk, it's like you've not, not been not disconnected, but
Mm-hmm.
it's fine because they're like, oh, life happens, like, and then the
Yeah,
other person
exactly.
feels apologetic and they're like, oh, I'm so sorry, but it's fine, like it's completely okay.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it eventually circles back constantly to intentionality, because if you feel like the other
Yeah.
person is also being intentional towards you, there's a lot of things
Mm-hmm.
as an adult that you just let go of. As a kid, you would probably hold on to those things and like hold a
Yeah.
grudge a lot easier. But growing up in adult friendships, I feel like holding a grudge is not always the biggest thing,
Nah.
unless it's something that's a real big deal breaker that comes your way.
The question is, do you even have the time to hold that grudge?
Hmm.
Is it even like, does it take up space in your brain? Do you have that much brain capacity?
Hmm.
I mean, at least I don't.
But yeah, I feel like while we're on that point of brain capacity, I feel like it's important to not come while making friends and restarting this process. It's important to not ignore red flags as well. Like sometimes there are going to be situations where people are clearly being a red flag, but because you feel like it's an adult friendship, you're going to try and overlook it. But
Mm,
the minute you draw those clear boundaries for yourself and establish that very well for yourself, you need to kind of know how to protect yourself while making these friendships as well. Because it's very easy to get overwhelmed in this process and be like, oh, I'm giving it 100%. This person is just not there ish from time to time. So,
yeah.
so it's
Like
kind
cut
of
your
important.
losses,
Exactly.
basically.
Exactly. So, and again, comes back to what we were saying earlier is that sometimes you're going to lose friendships, and that's also completely okay.
Part and parcel of life, part and parcel of adulthood, and it's just about acceptance.
Mm-hmm.
Like you go through the 5 stages of grief, similarly for friendships that end,
Mm.
basically.
Absolutely, for sure.
So, talking about like low pressure friendships, and so I have this friend who I've
Mm-hmm.
known basically through classes like tuition after school.
Mm-hmm.
And when he moved to another country and then I moved, we sort of lost touch. I wouldn't say lost touch. We would still follow each other on Instagram, wish
Mm-hmm.
birthdays each year, but then didn't really talk like we used to. And
Mm-hmm.
then this one random day, he decided to just call, and I was like, oh, that's weird. Like, I haven't spoken to him in a while. So I picked up the phone, we started talking. It was as if we never stopped talking.
Mm-hmm.
And then he called me again on my birthday, and then his birthday is coming up. So, just that one call, like sometimes you feel like,
Yeah.
oh, I haven't spoken to this person in a while. It just takes that one phone call or like just that message saying, hey, what's up? Like, how are you doing? Or so it's that easy. And honestly, both of us didn't feel like, I'm not gonna call that person because like he hasn't texted or she hasn't texted. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't matter. If you want to keep that connection, just pick up the phone.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just as easy as picking up the phone. And I think on that note, there's also the aspect of like, sure, you're coming to a new country and you're making these new friendships and you're investing all of this time and effort. But as you, in some ways, kind of hinted on, there's also those long distance friendships that you're trying to
Mm-hmm.
maintain. And that also can seem very burdened because, new life, you're trying to start
Yeah.
university, find yourself a part time job, make all of these new friends in these situations, putting yourself out there. And then there's also like those long distance friendships that you have to in some ways maintain. But as you kind of age, you realize that those long distance friendships are just in some ways mostly here to stay, and you can just like put in
Mm-hmm.
just a little effort in there, and that's also
Yeah.
plenty.
Definitely. And while we spoke about all of this, like long distance friendship, you mentioned work friendships.
Mm-hmm.
So let's come to that because I feel like for me, especially work friendships haven't really worked out because I've been working remotely since the pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't even gone to the hybrid model yet. But at the same time, like my first remote job back in India, I made these two friends that were my colleagues and I'm still in touch with them. So
Mm-hmm.
again, the effort bit, right? Like it has to be
Yeah.
from both the sides, and it cannot just, I mean, it could be one sided, but for
Mm-hmm.
how long is the question. So have you had any people, work friends you've made here or back home?
Honestly, it's interesting that you say that because I feel like I've seen, I don't know if this is a cultural shift of sorts, but I feel like in India, having work friendships were a lot more of a thing where people would still
Mm-hmm.
connect out of work as well. But somehow I
Yeah.
feel like having moved to North America, moved to Canada, I feel like work friendships are slightly tougher. It's a lot more of a, while you can be friendly at work, I've not
Yeah.
really seen so much of a friendship outside of work be established for a lot of people.
Interesting.
So I feel like that's also something important that we can highlight for people who are coming in to the country maybe eventually and thinking that
Hmm.
they will have all of these work friendships that come their way. It's
It's
important. It's
possible, I
possible.
want to say, because
It's
I've had
definitely
that. Now that you
possible.
were now that you're speaking about it, like I'm thinking work friendships here, and two of my closest friends here right now in Toronto are through my first part-time job. And
Okay.
a lot of the people at work, we would go out for like drinks afterwards, go out for food afterwards. So there was that, like a couple of people, like a group of us that were sort of friends, and
Mm-hmm.
we have met outside of work at like different places and people's houses and stuff like that. So I mean, while it's not the same comparing India to Canada or the US, it's possible. It just takes more time
It
and it's
does.
slow, I want to say. Like, it's
It
possible,
does.
but the timeline and what that looks like, it's different. And similarly, for my other full time job, which was remote, a couple of us discovered that we stay very close by in the vicinity. So
Mm-hmm.
we've decided to meet up a couple of times. So, like, stuff like that, like, I'm sure if I were hybrid or
Mm-hmm.
fully in person, it also depends on your personality, right? Like, we were
For
speaking
sure.
about introvert, extrovert, and just putting that effort and saying hi.
Mm-hmm.
So I wouldn't say it's not possible or it's not, I mean, it's definitely not the same,
For
but
sure.
possible for sure.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. I think it is possible, but I've personally faced like a little bit of a cultural shift in
Yeah.
that aspect. So, but
No, that's definitely there, and it
mhm,
would be, right?
yeah.
And while we're talking about making friends at work and the difference between India and US, Canada,
Mm-hmm.
there's something that I've noticed here. Maybe I wasn't looking at it back home,
Mm-hmm.
but people connect on LinkedIn, they start talking, maybe they become friends. But some people go beyond that and get married and engaged, and then they announce it on LinkedIn saying, LinkedIn helped me find my partner. LinkedIn helped me find my fiance. And I'm like, holy shit, LinkedIn can't help you find a job. It's helping you find your fiance. What?
God damn.
So
But
yeah, that's the
I,
other
I
extreme.
I feel like at some point in time, and I don't know if my memory is serving me well enough, but I have seen like every now and then a post on Instagram talking about how there's now going to be a LinkedIn dating version that's going to be out there on the app. I
Really?
have no idea if it's a reality or
Hmm.
not, and if anyone is out there watching who has an idea if this was just a meme or real, you can put it down in the comments for us and let us know. But I feel
That
like
would be
I feel like that's
interesting.
heard. I feel like that is something that I have heard.
But imagine how interesting that would be. Like, you could select what industry the person is working in. You could probably select their age group, their location,
I
vicinity.
At that point
Uh,
in time, it's a matrimony app. It's not anymore a professional app.
I mean, it maybe they do a different version of it, like LinkedIn for networking and professional work and stuff, and then there's like LinkedIn dating. There's two different apps. I don't think it can be one.
Yeah, if
Maybe
it's
they can be
in,
connected.
it'll be hella awkward if they're in one app. That's for sure.
Oof, imagine your boss is saying you were matched with this person, or you getting matched with your colleagues at that point. My God.
Nope, that can be chaotic as hell. But
Yeah, we're
anyway,
going down a
on that,
weird rabbit hole.
yeah. Before we get into that rabbit hole on that chaotic note, I guess we can wrap this episode up. Again, as usual, there's so much we can cover in these topics. So at any point in time, if you feel like that you want a part two for these, if you have more questions, put them down in the comments and we can make a second video. Don't
Mhm.
forget to like, share, subscribe, and follow us on socials. I'm going to say this every single episode. Also, wait, Sakshi, we completely forgot to
Oh
acknowledge
shit.
we have
Yes.
also finally hit 100 subscribers on YouTube.
On YouTube.
And
We've crossed 100 plays across all the audio platforms. So, all you audio listeners, thank you so much. So, all of y'all who've stayed till the end,
mm-hmm,
get our heartfelt thank you for actually staying and sticking for this far. Like, we're 10 episodes down, 11 episodes down, and
mm-hmm.
hoping to get that number up.
Yeah, for sure. You'll have finally got us to 100 subscribers. Let's see it get to that 250 soon enough.
250, I was gonna say
Yes,
1,000 subscribers.
smaller wins. We smaller wins. We go for smaller wins first.
500 subscribers.
Okay, 500 it is.
250. All right, guys. We'll see you all next week. Thank you so much. Bye.
Okay, bye.